the realities of being a woman in business. Today, I'm joined by the wonderful Lucy Noonan, who is the queen of buying and selling, letting and estate agents. Hi, Lucy. Thanks for joining me today. Lucy, what are the realities of being a woman in business? The myths, the challenges, and the advantages? Talk to me.
Good question. I think obviously you know that I'm really passionate about being a woman in business and have been involved with women in estate agency and agents together, etc. But I think through my career, I have found it very difficult to be a woman. Sometimes I had career opportunities were missed later in my right at the start of my career. I felt like I had to be a bit more maverick. And especially when I started Atomic Consultancy,
How long ago was that?
nearly 4 years.
Wow.
I know,
I can remember when you started.
I know. I'm from my bedroom.
Yeah, but and again, everyone does. You suffered from imposter syndrome, and can I do this?
Yeah.
But now look at you.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's interesting because I still suffer from imposter
There's nothing
syndrome.
wrong with that because
Yeah.
it keeps you grounded.
Yeah, I'd say probably even just the last 3 months. So just we're going up to our fourth birthday. I've now got a team of six. We're dealing with multi-million pound deals now, and actually my anxiety sometimes has become a bit worse sometimes. But I think that's because as a woman, I actually really care about everything, and I'm so proud of what I've achieved. But also, then that does create sometimes that stress and that worry around things.
But you put that stress on just because it's
Yeah,
got an extra zero on the end.
yeah, definitely. Well, I
Which there's
never.
no difference between a 10 million pound business and a 1 million, is there?
No, well,
Well, a bit
can,
more.
yeah, there can be because, like, what we were talking off camera before we started, you can't have a single point of failure really in your business, but as a small business, sometimes you can't afford not to have that. So I think, when I initially set out to be at Atomic, I did feel like I had a point to prove, and people said to me, it's a very much a man's world what you do, corporate finance and brokering. You'll only last 6 months. So I think I did kind of put a bit of an armour on. But what I've realised is actually one of the unique benefits of Atomic and us being a mainly female team, we do have men in our team now, is we're more empathetic. So I can understand people's situations that they're in. And, we're selling businesses that sometimes it's not a nice outcome. It can be a marital breakdown. It can be ill health. It can be loads of different reasons that can be quite emotionally tough. And also, if the business you've owned for 30 years, it's something that you're incredibly
It's your
passionate about.
baby, isn't it?
And they've spent probably more time with it than they have their own babies if they've had children. So I think I kind of have learned over the last 18 months in particular that, actually being a woman and having that softer side and being more approachable, and also not tolerating bad behaviour. So, some of the deals that we've brokered, we have had, difficult challenges with some of the buyers being very aggressive. And I have a zero tolerance. We have a sign on our wall that says trot on. And if you're not going to be professional and polite to myself and the team, then, we're not going to deal for you and we're not the broker for you. But I think, I remember walking into boardrooms and people saying, are you taking the minutes? And actually, it was me leading the meeting. But because I was the only woman in the room, I was seen as,
But
that
hold on, did they know that you were who you were?
they thought I was the PA. So I was when I was at Lomond, I was with Will Lindley, that you'll know, and we were going in to negotiate a multi-million pound deal, and we were in Canary Wharf, and we were sat on this table, and they thought, are you going to go and get the teas and coffees? And to be fair, like the Will and the solicitors turned around and went, no, Lucy Noonan's the head of acquisitions, like, she can do that. But I did actually get up and make the cups of tea because I've got no problem with doing that. Everybody should be treated the same. I remember when we used to work together 11, 12 years ago, there was someone in my team. That's 12. Oh my God, that's so bad. And they were really rude to the cleaner. And I was like, just because they're the cleaner doesn't mean you can't do your job if you've not got, the tools to be able to do it. And I think that's where, I always treat everybody with the same respect, whether it's a 24 million pound deal, could right down to, £100,000 asset, because it's important to that person. And I think that being a woman in business is that
It's a
is how I found
superpower.
it difficult. Yeah. we overthink as women, 100%.
What about as a woman dealing with other women? Is there an issue there, or
I think in my career there definitely has been. I've definitely had challenges, and I think sometimes, unfortunately, because there's the competition rife anyway between male and female. It's always been, you want to be seen, you want to, go to that next level, and not everybody is kind. And I'm not going to sit here and say, there hasn't been some moves that I've made in my career where I've looked back and thought, I probably should have dealt with that very differently. And were they threatening? Maybe they weren't. But women, in particularly, that are passionate about growing in their career, people say to me, I don't mince my words, and
no, you don't. You call a spade an effing shovel
yeah, and then so a
because
woman
you are
as
a
well.
bit of a Marmite character as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. A lot of people don't like me, but that's
Who
okay.
cares?
Yeah, I used to really struggle with that, and I still do sometimes. Like it does affect me, but at the same time, I've got values, and I will speak my mind.
How have you? How just so we can teach the ladies and gentlemen watching this, how have you become a bit more thicker skinned? Because it's a paradox. Because I know you still care, but you shouldn't care.
Yeah, I think. Well, I do think you should care. I think if you're unkind to someone, then that's not the right thing to do.
No, but but it's coming to you. I'm not saying
Yeah,
you're.
Yeah, so I think definitely our competition and some people have been really aggressive to us. And at first it did massively affect me. But I just, through mentoring and coaching, I've been very much kind of now I've learned stay in my own lane, focus on my goal. Let's do what we do the way we do it. Don't badmouth competition. If they're going to badmouth you, that's absolutely fine. And actually, as a byproduct of that, we've actually been more successful because people have seen that I won't badmouth anybody, but at the same time, if they're going to do that, then
Well,
it's
they
a
obviously see you as
reflection
a
of them.
threat, don't they?
Well, yeah, they do now, and I'm proud to say that. At first, I was like, there's enough space for the estate agency industry for lots of different suppliers. Look at the amount of CRM systems are out there. There's all the different AML products. We've got all the different types of estate agency models. So there is space as well for business brokers to sell agencies, but there's a very different service, and what we offer is very different, and that's fine.
And I think that goes the same for estate agents. Never slag off your competition.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back because we were talking about the realities of being a woman in business. Is there anything that you would have done differently? I know there's the benefit of hindsight, and hindsight is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think I probably wouldn't have been as aggressive as I was. And I still sometimes can be, because I think I'm protective of what I do. And I get too involved sometimes, particularly with some of my clients. And probably the way in which I articulated myself sometimes, probably I could have done better. But at the same time, I've always said I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I always say I'm honest. And sometimes that can be hurtful. So I think it's the way in which you speak sometimes I think is important. But, you know, um, like you say, not everybody likes everybody, and that's fine. I don't like everybody, I can respect what people do, but I don't have to particularly, like them as a person. And I think, my daughter's just gone into year 6, and so that age, that all of those girls' friendships and the clashes that we have, it's still the same. I'm 41. Passionate women get into a room and will argue about something, and it can create heat. And that's the difference, I think, between women and men, is that we show our passion sometimes a little bit more than men do. Men will just get on a golf, have an argy-bargy, and then the next day they'll go off and play golf. Whereas women will take it to heart, will overthink it, will talk about things through. And that's exactly, like, well, I think that a lot of women are. But, we've got a lot of positive things and attributes to bring because we've got more empathy, I think, and we do take things to heart.
Lucy, thank you very much for the insight. And I hope you, ladies and gentlemen, have found that useful. Put any comments you've got, anything you've learned in the replies below. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.